Welcome back to the Tara Palmeri Show. So many of you have asked me about Katie Johnson. She feels very much like the missing piece in the Jeffrey Epstein story because she is the one lawsuit that we know of that connects to the president of the United States, one of the most powerful people in the world. And she filed this lawsuit during the 2016 campaign 3 times, okay? And at the time, she claimed that she was raped by Jeffrey Epstein and President Trump in Epstein's townhouse in 1994 when she was just 13 years old and was an aspiring model. Now, she dropped that case just days before the election, before she was set to hold a press conference in Los Angeles. And her lawyer, Lisa Bloom, one of her lawyers, said that she dropped it because of death threats and intimidation. And every time I look at my comments, my emails, everything that I get from you, the feedback, you're always asking about Katie Johnson, right? Well, I can't say anything about her really because she's never come forward. She's decided to remain anonymous in the shadows. And even Katie Johnson, that name, it's a pseudonym. It's a Jane Doe. That is not her real name because it's really difficult and it's really hard for Jane Does to come out and tell their stories without fear of retribution, without fear of private investigators coming after them and their family and trying to intimidate them into backing down from their story, right? So people have just always wondered what happened to her. I have too, but her lawyers can't break client confidentiality and speak about her. The only person who can decide if they want to talk about Katie Johnson is Katie Johnson or the person that she has accused or people around her. And then a friend this weekend, a fellow reporter, sent me a clip of Michael Cohen, President Trump's former fixer for almost 15 years. And I clicked on it. He was on MSNBC defending President Trump. Take a listen here.
Number one, I don't believe that Donald Trump was on Epstein's island. Why? He said it more than 5-6 times, and he says it very openly. Now, Donald Trump says many things openly,
I was going to say,
this is different.
He doesn't always flirt with the truth.
That's true, but I know Trump, and I know that he's saying it for a purpose.
So as you heard, he said President Trump didn't go to Epstein Island. He said he didn't believe he did, and he's not in the flight logs either, so he may not be wrong. But I was surprised to hear Michael Cohen going on TV to defend President Trump because he hasn't said anything nice about him since he went to prison for connection to those hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, and there was another one to Karen McDougal, although I don't believe that it was connected to his time in prison. But he went to prison essentially as a fall guy for President Trump, and he has had nothing nice to say about him. He has a prominent Substack, YouTube channel, etc. But then I thought again about something that Michael Cohen had said earlier. I started Googling, and he said that he cast doubt on the Wall Street Journal's reporting that President Trump gave Jeffrey Epstein this depraved birthday card for his 50th birthday inside of a naked woman's body. And it suggested that they had some sort of shared secret about sexual trysts, that it was an enigma. Well, Michael Cohen said on CNN that President Trump doesn't use the word enigma and that he can't doodle. Take a listen here.
I have never once seen him doodle. I never saw him draw a picture. In fact, I would be very shocked if Donald Trump actually can doodle. It's just not his thing. And the language, using words like enigma, that's not a Donald Trump word.
Well, it turns out that one of President Trump's doodles was auctioned off at Sotheby's, and he has used the word enigma before.
Now, Carson's an enigma to me. Carson's an enigma.
So I'm like, why is Michael Cohen saying this? And then the lights went off for me. Michael Cohen might know more about Katie Johnson. Her suit was filed in the fall of 2016, in the 2016 election period, at the same time that he was the fixer handling Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal. Surely this was another case that he would want to go away. So I thought, why not just ask Michael directly? And that's what I do in this episode. And it is extremely revealing. It really is. We talk about this case. He says he can't remember it. He stammers. But he does remember dealing with another Jeffrey Epstein Trump-related complaint in which the plaintiff said that she was raped by President Trump with Epstein when she was younger. And it sounds very similar to the Katie Johnson case, although he says that they're not the same. I think you should take a listen to this interview. It's stammering, it's wide-ranging. You know, Michael is very defensive. He gets very angry at me at times. There's a lot of curse words in it. But I'm just trying to understand what happened. And he really revealed to me a lot about how Trump's orbit dealt with these complaints. The fact that they sent private investigators to find out who this anonymous Jane Doe was. I mean, Jane Does use fake addresses. Usually their law firm that they retain's address so that they can protect themselves and their identities. I think it's worth taking a listen to this conversation. I'm curious to think what you think about it. What do you think Michael Cohen knows? What do you think he doesn't know? Who do you think he's talking about? Because, you know, I've been looking around. I haven't been able to find another complaint that is as similar to Katie Johnson's that was filed at the same time in the 2016 election that was withdrawn voluntarily, just like Katie Johnson's in 2016, right before the election. It sounds like Michael Cohen might be talking about Katie Johnson. Take a listen here. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you know more than I do. I'd love to hear what you know.
Tara Palmeri. Tara, how you doing? How's everything going? We have a lot to talk about, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, we do. Thanks for having me on your show. Want to invite all of my followers as well from the Red Letter. Yeah, I just was, I saw you on MSNBC this weekend, and I've just been seeing you all over the place talking about the Epstein story. And as you know, I've been covering that for so long.
Yes, that's the right way to say it. My longtime friend. That is the right way to say it. You know, for somebody who's as eloquent and is, you know, is sort of comical and whimsical in my writing, yes, my longtime friend. And by the way, just to add to what Tara was saying, if you're a subscriber to me at the very top there, you know, actually, it was Jolly who turned around and told me how to do this. At the very top, you know that chyron that you see? It says Michael Cohen, and it says Tara Palmeri. Do you know that if you tap on that, my subscribers can immediately subscribe to you, and then vice versa. So to those of you that are my subscribers, please make sure that you subscribe to Tara and vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So yes, I was on.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I had no idea about that. Great to know.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so like I was looking, you know, I saw you on the weekend with my old colleague Eugene Daniels, and
You're a longtime colleague.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it got me back to thinking that like you were Trump's lawyer and fixer during a period of time when, you know, Jeffrey Epstein was very much a social figure in Miami, in Palm Beach, or
Not
all
when
around.
not when I was affiliated to Trump. That relationship ended, according to at least what I'm reading, 2005. I didn't come into his orbit until 2005, but more specifically 2007, when I ended up accepting the position as executive vice president of the Trump Organization and special counsel to Trump. And I have been very, very clear. And some people, you know, there's a whole slew, including some folks that are with us today trying to troll, that turn around and say shit like, oh, you know, I'm covering for Trump, or, you know, I've bent the knee and I'm
Did
on
you ever?
Trump's.
Yeah,
I have never met Jeffrey Epstein. I have never spoken to Jeffrey Epstein. I've never texted with him or anyone on his behalf. I never saw him at the Trump org, never came to visit, never heard Donald speaking to him, was never asked by Donald to get him onto the phone. There was no relationship with him by the time that I started. Now, I want to be clear, and I say this all the time. I came into Trump's orbit again in 2007. I cannot speak from firsthand knowledge on anything that preceded me, despite what I know people want. They want to hear, you know, me turn around and say something. I'm not here to appease people, right? For their claps or for your applause or your clickbait. If I turn around and I discredit myself by making a false statement about the relationship or something that you want me to say that I know that I don't, that just takes away from my credibility, and I have no interest in doing that.
Yeah, no, I'm more just curious because, I know that he was still remained friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, and what was your impression when meeting her? What did
I
you
never
think?
met her. You see, this is the whole problem. I've never met Ghislaine. I've never met Jeffrey Epstein. There's so much misinformation, disinformation, malinformation about me, which goes all the way back to the Steele dossier. I've just never
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
I've never met her. I've never spoken to her, and as far as the only case that I was involved with was a Jane Doe, an infant, by and through her mom, Mary Jane Doe, right, as legal guardian. That case was dismissed not because of anything that I spoke to the lawyers, and I've talked about this a million times. I turn around and I receive this summons and a complaint, and the averments in it are awful. They're despicable. It talks about basically rape of an underage female,
Yeah.
claiming and alleging that Donald was involved in it and all that other nonsense. I ended up taking a private investigator and trying to find out who this person was. And we went to the address that allegedly this minor lived at in the Bronx. Well, lo and behold, the investigator responds back and says the only thing that's there is an empty parking lot. There's no building there. It's an empty lot. And so I reached out to the lawyers and I asked them, have you ever met your client? And their answer was no. I said, well, how the hell did you sign the case up? And they're like, listen, we screwed up. I'm sorry. I'm like, whoa, hold on one second. I sent an investigator to check out this address. There's no
Wait, is
building
this
there.
Katie Johnson or was this a different Jane Doe?
That was a Jane Doe.
No, because Katie Johnson also files a Jane Doe in New York.
Well,
So
I don't know if it's the same person or not.
Was it a girl who said she was 13 years old and was raped in Epstein's house with President Trump? Is it the
To be
same
very
person?
honest, I don't remember the full. I
1994.
don't remember the full scope of it. All I remember.
Lisa Bloom. You would remember the lawyer. It was Lisa Bloom. Came out in November
There was
2016.
no. It was not Lisa Bloom as the lawyer. It was
November
a gentleman.
2016.
And I reached out to him and I said, have you ever met your client? He said no. No, in fact, that they did. It was a referral to him, and he ended up doing it through the mail. I said, really? So he goes, yeah, they sent me. I sent them all the papers to a PO box or something, and then they sent it back, and this was the address. And so he was like, listen, I'm dropping this case. I don't know whether or not this person even exists. That was
What year was this? What year was this? I never heard
that
about
was 2000 and that was 2000 and I'll tell you right now, hold on. It was 2016.
Oh, so it was in the same year as the
campaign.
It was the same year as the other suit from the Katie Johnson that then became.
It happened around October, November of 2016. And the lawyer was like, my apologies, I'm withdrawing the case. I said,
So it
okay.
wasn't the Lisa Bloom one because you would have remembered that one.
No.
Yeah. I was thinking about that one because that case also was revoked around the same time in 2016, around the same time that,
No, it was not revoked in 2016.
Yeah, it was. The Katie Johnson was taken. She took it back in, I believe it was November 2016. I can get you the exact date. Yeah, she took it back and they claimed it was because of intimidation. And I was just wondering, did you handle that case? Because obviously Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal were being handled at the same time.
No.
Do you know who handled it?
Yeah, it was an outside law firm.
in this, it says Alan Garten left in a Politico, quotes Alan Garten, who was his in-house attorney.
Then it wasn't
Quoting.
2016. Then it was 2017.
No, it's in 2016. The Katie Johnson case has been established in 2016.
That wasn't something that I handled.
You didn't handle that one.
No.
I was just like, it just seems that, you've cast a lot of doubt on this case, like by saying he didn't doodle. And then obviously he was,
He doesn't doodle. I'm sorry that
one of his doodles got sold to Sotheby's, though. One of his doodles sold to Sotheby's.
He may have colored it in, but all of his executive assistants were all phenomenal artists. And there were one or two that were just even better than phenomenal, that they actually show their stuff in galleries. So did he turn around and say to somebody, here, just scratch me out something and I'll sign my name to it? And he did it for charity. I do not make any claims whatsoever, zero, that he didn't prior to my knowledge or that he did. I have no idea. I only know from when I started to when I left that there was no relation. But I'm not denying any of these victims. Who the hell am I to deny any of these
I'm
victims?
just more curious.
Their comments.
I'm actually just more curious if you handled them, because this.
Well, the answer is if Alan Garten turns around in Politico and says he handled it, why would you?
He didn't say he handled it. He just commented on Trump's behalf. But you would handle.
But why would Alan Garten ever comment? But why would Alan Garten ever comment on me? Right? I've never commented on you. Alan.
He commented on the case because it was dropped because they said that there was intimidation, and that's why it was dropped. But at the same exact time was the Stormy Daniels, and at the same time there was also the Karen McDougal case, and they were all dropped in the fall of 2016. So I was wondering,
had nothing to do with me.
I didn't dealt with that.
Let me be very clear. I testified to 7 congressional committees,
Yeah.
two grand juries, and to 2 trials. Do you think, and not to mention some outside additional depositions that were taken by Alina Habba, do you really think that of all of these members of Congress that asked me questions for a total of 63 hours, do you think they didn't bring up this sort of stuff with Jeffrey Epstein? And the answer is,
what did they ask? What did they ask?
It's in the records, but they all asked. And I turn around and I say the same thing.
I've read the records. I'm just curious, like what?
And I turn around and I say the same thing. I have no knowledge of anything with Jeffrey Epstein. Zero.
So somebody else handled the Jeffrey Epstein.
I didn't handle it. As much as idiots like this Velvet Lavender. I didn't handle it. So it's the same horseshit.
Like in all honesty, though.
But Tara, to be honest with you, what you're doing is actually wrong. I got to tell you. I'm going to tell you why it's wrong. I'm going to tell you why it's wrong. I have now said at least 3,000 times. At least 3,000 times. I have no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein at all as it relates to Trump. But people just keep digging. Well, you must know something.
Why. I think a lot of people just want to know why one person filed a suit and then dropped it.
I don't have the answer.
At the same time as these other women that also were getting hush money.
By the way, one person got hush money from me. Stormy Daniels. Another misstatement is the one that I paid off Karen McDougal. No, I did not. That was paid for by David Pecker and the National Enquirer. All right? Plain and simple. It's not that I'm defensive. I'm trying to explain. And people just don't want to hear it. The same way I tried to explain to everyone, I've never been to Prague. I have never been to the Czech Republic. Oh, my God. Guess where? I've also never been to Russia.
About that. I just want to know about this one case because I think it's every time.
Call the lawyer. Call the lawyer. Call Alan Garten.
He wasn't the lawyer necessarily. He was just speaking on behalf of He was just speaking on behalf of Trump. It doesn't mean he's necessarily the lawyer. Like you were his lawyer too and his fixer, and that's why I'm just wondering what.
And I'm telling you that I had nothing to do with it.
Okay, that's fair, but I mean, I just think it's a little weird that like you haven't said anything nice about Trump since like prison basically. And in this case, you seem to be saying that like there's no way he went to the island because he said he didn't go to the island.
No, that's not what I said. Okay. Again, what I say is extremely important, and you can't paraphrase it or decide
Yeah,
to
please
sort of
say
put it in your own way. What I said was, I have no knowledge of Donald Trump ever going to Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Yeah,
And
there's no
again,
flight record. Yes.
I'm referring from 2007 to 2018. Okay. Second, I know Trump just about better than anybody. There's a reason why he is saying it the way that he's saying. That I've never been to Epstein's island, and I wouldn't be shocked if that's not true. What I know is that he's definitively on his airplane because he used to go with Epstein down to Palm Beach, right?
It's in the flight logs. Yeah, it's in the flight logs. There's no
it's in there. There's no way to argue that fact. So I know that he did it simply for the purpose of not having to fuel up his own plane. It was a free ride on a nice airplane, plain and simple. When what I'm afraid of is that fact of him never being on Epstein's island, what if hypothetically he's telling the truth on this specific issue? Is that going to negate out all the other stuff? And what I keep saying is, I can't stand everybody's innuendo, all of the hypotheticals, whether it's the people that are with us today or those that are on television or were journalists or whatever the hell they want to call themselves. I'm talking about there's no need for this innuendo hypothetical conversation. Release the goddamn
there's
files.
So many things that we don't know. So, for example,
Release the files is what I keep saying. And then none of us have to speculate. Because
but you would know,
you
would actually know better than most people. For example, Brad Edwards was a lawyer for one of the.
I don't know who Brad Edwards is.
Well, he actually spoke with Trump, and he said that it was Trump's lawyers that set him up because he knew that Trump and Epstein did not get along. It was infamous.
In what year?
Everyone knew that Trump and Epstein.
In what year?
This was in 2019. Yeah.
I was in prison in 2019.
No, sorry, earlier than that. It must have been 2017 when they were fighting for the Crime Victims' Rights Act, when they realized that their case was being overturned. He asked to depose Trump, and he called Trump's lawyers about it. And he did this for his client.
Who did he call?
He didn't specify the exact lawyer, but the lawyer said, but wouldn't you have been aware if Trump was testifying on behalf of the victims for against Jeffrey Epstein? Like, I just find it hard to believe that at no point during the time that you worked for him, you never spoke to him about Jeffrey Epstein.
No.
When this guy, Brad Edwards, who is just a lawyer,
I don't know who he is.
Was like, it's infamous that they hate each other. Like, that's why
I'm sure they do hate each other. I'm just telling you, I have no idea. I'm hiding. By the way, do you think that I would be hiding something if I knew something?
That you might I would find it impossible considering who Jeffrey Epstein is,
right?
And what I know about him. That at no point did you guys ever discuss their relationship, what the falling out was, like why they weren't friends.
Do you know how I found out what the falling out was about? It was on my podcast with Michael Wolff on Mea Culpa. When I had him on about 3 weeks ago, I had no idea what
and when your client is going to testify against him, like you didn't at any point talk about that.
Okay, I'm going to say it. I'll say it again, and I really want you to listen to what I'm saying now. All right, because after a while, it just gets redundant.
I had no conversation. The truth, like that's all I want to know.
Okay, your truth and my truth may not be the same. What you want to hear is. What you may want to hear is truth, right? It may not be the same. I'm telling you, I had no conversations with Trump about Epstein. I learned from Michael Wolff that it had to do with the house that was sold in Palm Beach, that I worked on the documents that was done through Sotheby's to Dmitry Raboleviev. I didn't know that. In fact, I didn't even know that house originally belonged to Lex Wexner. Now, I knew the house on 71st Street belonged to Lex Wexner. That I know I had read about years ago. Where it was a weird sort of deal where he just gave him this like $60+ million townhouse. But I didn't know that house in Palm Beach was Lex Wexner's. I didn't know.
Yeah. Right.
I didn't know. If I knew, I would have talked about it. You think that, I mean, is there anything else that I have not spoken about openly and honestly?
I don't know, because all I've heard so far is like everything you've said basically is to sort of clear him, which is fine.
I'm not
I have never
clearing him.
spoken to I've never spoken to a victim that has said that they were molested by Trump during the Epstein period of time. But I do know that a case was dropped during the time that you were his fixer, and that is why I'm asking you. And I wanted to ask you about what you knew about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, because they were very much in Trump's orbit for a long period of time.
When I wasn't in, when it was before,
he was still a
I was
member of
involved.
Mar-a-Lago until 2007.
Right. That's okay. I started March of 2007. I have no idea
I thought
when he was or was not. I never met Jeffrey Epstein. I never met him. I never spoke to him.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, again, the answer is no.
Okay.
And it's not an issue. I don't know how many more times to people I can explain to. And there's some idiot that's trolling us, oh, but Cohen lives in a Trump. I bought my apartment. It is a condo, right?
Yeah.
Meaning fee simple absolute. I bought my condo 2 years before I was even working for Trump. Right? Just by coincidence, I owned other apartments in Trump buildings. I had one at Trump World Tower, one at Trump Palace. I invested in various apartments. I had quite a few going back years ago in different Trump buildings. Till, of course, I ended up, losing them as a direct result of my incarceration. You think I'm here to protect anybody? I'm just here to tell the truth, because as soon as you know how easy it would be for me to just turn around and say, I don't know, it's possible, sure, maybe, yeah, I have no idea. No.
Yeah.
It just would detract from all the things that I have said so far. So either how many times did I have to yell from the rooftops? I've never been to Prague. I've never been to the Czech Republic. I've never been to Russia. I gave them my passport, and Daily Beast, the ones who put out the story, they photographed it.
Michael,
they photographed
I'm not trying to implicate you. All I am is asking you if you
I'm telling you no.
If I'm asking you if you have any information, because it is the thing that everyone asks. I look at my comments every single day, because I'm creating a community, and everybody wants to know what happened to Katie Johnson.
I don't know.
Everybody wants to know that.
So where is she?
Exactly. Everybody wants to know.
I don't know. Katie, if you're on, contact me. I'd like to know as well. I have no idea.
And you were working for him at the time, and so everybody wants to know. And the reports were all that she left because of intimidation. Was there a settlement? Was she intimidated? And that's why
Not by me.
I'm not asking you to I just want.
I'm just telling you, not by me. And not only was it not by me, I have no knowledge of it.
Okay. Do you know who might have knowledge of it?
I don't. I don't even know who represented the case.
Okay.
I truly don't know. Let's find out who was her lawyer. Did you say it was Lisa Bloom?
Lisa Bloom, yeah.
So let's call Lisa Bloom. Lisa Bloom and answer.
The question is that she has decided to drop, she was a Jane Doe, first of all, and she decided not to, she obviously didn't go forward with it. So something must have happened during that time that made her decide not to want to go forward with it. And there were 3 times she filed the case. She filed it first in California, she filed it again in New York, and then filed a 3rd time in New York. So
let me ask you this. So the 2 cases that are filed in New York, let's just check on Westlaw, Nexus, Lexus. Let's pull up the old file and see who was representing Katie Johnson. It's not hard.
Yeah, it was Lisa Bloom. Excuse me. It was Lisa Bloom. Yeah.
Okay.
It was,
no. Who was
representing President Trump is the other question.
Right.
That's exactly.
Who was
who's representing the other side?
Yeah, who was defendant's attorney?
The defendant's attorney. I mean, I have to look at that one, but I mean, it's you were his lawyer at the time.
I was one of 15 lawyers in the firm. Not to mention, this isn't even one that
I can pull it up. I can pull up who the lawyer was.
Let's pull it up. I'm sitting right here.
Katie Johnson, Donald Trump. But you did handle 2 similar cases at the time, so that's why I asked.
Why there's allegations of rape by Karen McDougal or by Stormy Daniels? Their affairs.
Yes, that's fair. That they were.
They also weren't 13 years old.
Right.
One was the most famous Playboy playmate of all time.
Yeah.
The other
but
was an adult film star.
You did say earlier that you handled another case pertaining to Epstein, and then you found it wasn't credible after you tried to find out.
All I did is I called the lawyer and I said, I sent somebody to investigate, and it came back. It was a vacant lot in the middle of the Bronx.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe the Jane Doe didn't feel comfortable putting their actual address because this is why they're afraid. They don't want to be intimidated at their homes. This kind of stuff happens.
That's just not the way that it works. So I contacted the lawyers. He said he never met his client. It was all done by paper. You know what his comment was? Maybe it just wasn't true, right? Maybe this was just a ploy by somebody to around. I didn't know. I didn't care. There was no plaintiff at the time, according to even the lawyers that filed the claim. They immediately withdrew it. The whole thing just came and went. After that, I had no involvement in any of these cases.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm trying to both listen to you and also find this Katie Johnson suit. But
all right. Meanwhile,
but we can talk about something else in the meantime, if you'd like.
Yep. Meanwhile, I think we should talk about the issue of Trump's decision to bring in Pam Bondi and the DOJ to go after people like Tish James or Adam Schiff or, soon to be Alvin Bragg. One of the other things that I said on MSNBC is I do truly believe that they have committed political homicide. And I say that because right now,
by the way, really quickly, I did just get the suit. I got the suit, the complaint. It does not list Donald Trump's lawyers. So it just says
it has to.
Yep.
It has to.
I'm looking at a United States District of Court, Central District of California suit. That's what I'm looking at right now.
Well, how about the New York ones? I'm not licensed in California, so I couldn't have represented him there anyway.
Pull the New York. I'll ask him to pull the New York ones. Okay. We can go back to Pam Bondi, though, in the meantime.
Yeah. So we're trying to deal with this other issue, which is, what's going to happen to Adam Schiff? What's going to happen to Tish James? And I do truly believe that based upon the manner to which that the members of the House and the Senate and the judiciary are acting and behaving, I do believe that they are going to be held accountable. One of the charges that was levied against me was my HELOC violation, the home equity line of credit. Now, mind you, I had the HELOC since the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one since 2005. This took place in 2016. They said that you didn't fill out the form right, and therefore I was charged with making a misrepresentation to a bank, and that was part of the crimes that I ultimately went to prison for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tish James and Adam Schiff have different documents that they allegedly signed, and this is all allegedly, according to the allegations coming out of the White House and the DOJ, that there is documentation showing that they up on their documents.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if that crime is good enough for me to go away, what do you think is going to happen to them? Especially when you have a DOJ that is now empowered by this president to act in a manner that is, let's just say, swift and tough.
It was just confirmed that it is Johnson's SDNY case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think that this is going to bode well for either of them? I don't think so.
Yeah. By the way, I did get the case in U.S. Southern District of New York. It doesn't include the names of the lawyers for Donald Trump. It just says Jane Doe versus Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And it was filed the date is October 3rd, 2017. Her lawyers are below, but not Donald Trump's lawyers. Thomas
October of
Francis Meager.
2017?
In October 2016, yeah.
2016 or 2017?
2016.
Okay. And it doesn't say the name of Trump's lawyers?
No, it doesn't in the filing. It just says.
And what about in the file that would turn around on the dismissal? Somebody has to sign off on it.
I don't have the dismissal filing. I just have the file that was submitted.
Okay. And what about the other one? That's the Jane Doe. What about the Katie Johnson one?
They're the same person. She
No,
just
no,
filed.
you don't know that to be true.
No,
You
I
don't
do
know
that.
that to be true because the
We
individual that I spoke to, that was the Jane Doe lawyer, was not Lisa Bloom. It was a man.
Thomas Meager.
What's that?
Thomas Meager.
You're talking. I don't remember. It could be. It could be, but
So you
it
did
may
work
not
on
be.
this in some way.
But he doesn't work. He doesn't work for her. It was his own firm.
Was it Cheney Mason?
Again, I don't know. That whole case with me lasted less than 2 days from the day I got it to the day that they dropped it.
But when
If
you
take
asked,
a look,
you had
look
to
at
have
the date.
asked Trump about it though. When you were like, well,
I did ask him. I did ask him. He told me it was bullshit. Take care of it. I said, okay.
That was it. That's it.
That's it.
It's bullshit.
He said, bullshit. Never happened.
Were you like, there's all these pictures. Is this going to be a problem around the same time?
No. I said, you sure? I said, you sure? He goes, Michael, it's bullshit.
That's just the way he communicates. Like you don't get much more info than that.
It's what he told me on this one.
Yeah. And you believed him.
100%. Then he said to me, let me know what happens. I said, sure. Don't forget also when this thing came about, he's smack in the middle of the campaign before the election. And so it wasn't like, oh yeah, let's sit down and let's engage in a lengthy discussion on something that he turned around and told me was bullshit. And I turned around and said, okay, you say it's bullshit. Let me go figure this thing out. He goes, just let me know what happens. Okay.
Do you think though, with all of the women that have come forward, did you think that they were all bullshit? Like,
No, I don't question any victim's comments. All I can talk about is what I know. Let me ask you the same question. Do you believe every single woman that came out and made an allegation against Mr. Trump, President Trump, Donald? Do you believe?
Unless I've
Hold on. Do you believe every one of the victims' comments?
I don't dismiss them based on it's bullshit.
I don't either. But you and I stand shoulder to shoulder on this one. I never met any of them. I never spoke to any of them. I've never deposed any of them. I was never involved in any of the lawsuits by them or against them or anything. I was not involved in any negotiations with any of them, not from E. Jean Carroll, not to Katie Johnson. I just wasn't involved in it. So you and I stand shoulder to shoulder. The fact that I worked for him and I had done other matters doesn't necessarily make me a Talmud Chacham in this one too. I'm just telling you, if I knew, trust me, I'd be the first one. It would have been in my book.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything else.
Well, I'm really curious about the questions like that they asked you about Jeffrey Epstein, because I don't think a lot of people have really gone back to that. The questions that were asked when you were being subpoenaed back, in 2017. Like
they asked if I know, do you know anything about the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein? No.
Yeah.
No, never met him, never spoke to him, never communicated with him, never texted him, never emailed with him or anybody that worked for him.
You knew about this. You obviously knew about this one case that you dug into. But
it wasn't a real case. There was no plaintiff. According to the plaintiff's own lawyer.
Wow.
So getting back to, because again, this is the problem when you're trying to disprove a negative. This is the same thing that happened.
Like you're a very valuable source because of your experience with him. Like you have to understand.
But you don't want to. But you and so many others don't want to accept the fact that I am a valuable source for information that I know and I have. If I don't have it, I'm not going to make it up for clickbait or for applause or for anything. I just don't know.
Okay. I mean, listen, I wouldn't want you to. It's just it's
I
obvious.
Won't.
Yeah, and I think it's worthy to it's worth asking about. And I heard a few things that I was like, that's a little weird, but let me ask and see what's going on. And I thought, the timeline is around the same time you would have been dealing with the other women that were saying that they wanted to come
Okay,
out.
again, one was the number one Playboy playmate in the world. The other
Mhm.
one was an adult film star, both
Mhm.
of whom were neither children, right? And one of them, Karen McDougal, was actually in love with the guy, right?
Yeah.
Stormy Daniel, well, that's a whole nother story. All right. By the way, I speak to Stormy on a regular basis. We actually became friends after I
Okay.
ultimately got out. I had her on my Mea Culpa podcast too, right?
Mhm.
I've never questioned what she says to be not true. I'm never going to do what too many have done to me, which is to refute the veracity of, we'll call it a victim, or a
Right.
woman who says that she engaged in a sexual relationship with somebody. I'm just not going to make it up in order to appease the prurient interests of individuals. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
I
just
just like
it's just
so
not my nature.
working so closely with him, I would just think had you ever, thought to yourself, had you heard him talk about Epstein or, met
No.
Epstein yourself or Ghislaine, because she was still around. I mean, she went to the Clintons' wedding after all.
I didn't go to the Clintons' wedding. I
I
was
know,
invited.
but that she was a society person. You're a powerful man. Like, I assume that you had probably come in contact with them at some point in your life.
In fact, I don't think I've ever even been in the same restaurant with them. I would have known. Don't
Mm.
forget, he lives directly next door to Howard Lutnick, who I've known longer than I know Trump. I've never
That's
even
so
seen
crazy.
Jeffrey.
You never crossed paths at any point. That's so crazy.
No,
Wow.
no, no. It is what it is.
Yeah. Wow. That is.
So going back now to you talk about the crazy nonsense of this DOJ and like what happened to me
Mhm.
when it comes to the weaponization of the Department of Justice. It is what it is. I rest assured, Adam Schiff, right? If the allegations are provable,
Mhm.
they will go after him. It will be political homicide. Same thing
Yeah.
with Tish James. This DOJ has sworn a loyalty oath to the office, to the president, not even to the office, to Donald J. Trump, like has never seen before I think in all of U.S. history.
Mhm.
You know, it's just never been like this. Where tomorrow they turn around and let me be clear about something. Here's what Donald Trump understands and knows is that everybody is guilty of something. And to those that are with us, to you, to Pope Leo, everybody has done something, right? Question is, have you done it within a statute of limitations that they can go after? What if they want to go after you, that they are hell bent to destroy you, and they have the full game under control?
Mhm.
You're doomed. There's the great book I read when I was in Otisville, when I was in prison. It's by Sidney Powell, believe it or not, and Harvey Westgate,
Mm.
called 5 Felonies a Day. And basically what it's about is that everybody commits 5 felonies a day. Now and it's not that these are felonies that people would, be incarcerated for,
Mm.
unless the Department of Justice wants to do it to you. So what happens if hypothetically tomorrow, Tara, they go ahead, they start pulling out whatever the records may be? And I know you're going to say, oh, they'd have nothing on me. It's not true. It goes back to the old adage that they can indict a ham sandwich,
That's
right?
true. I believe a grand jury could indict a ham sandwich, which is
They
the weirdest part about the Epstein case too, the fact that he didn't get any indictments.
100%. That's another issue. I just had Dave Arenberg on my Mea Culpa podcast where he talked about it, because look at what took place over there, that the guy who gave Epstein that sweetheart deal, I never heard anything like this in my entire life, that he was using the prison system like a timeshare, right? He would wake up first thing in the morning, right after count, he would go off to the mansion, And then,
No, he could go to his office. He was on work release.
yeah,
Yeah.
for six out of 7 days, right? A week. I mean, I've never heard of anything like this in my entire life, especially on a sex offense. I mean, this is nuts. It's as crazy as Ghislaine Maxwell being sent to FCI Bryan in Texas, which is a low security facility.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I will keep saying, and I'm going to do something very, very soon where I'm going to put out this massive petition. I want Republicans across the country, including Republican members of Congress, I want them to sign on to this petition demanding the immediate unredacted file that Pam Bondi claims is sitting on her desk. We want the unredacted file exclusive, of course, of the victims' names, those that do not want to be named. All right? Or just take everybody's name out. It doesn't matter to me. I want to see the file. I want to be able to read the file like I read the 921-page Project 2025, so that when you and I sit and we engage in conversation, I'm not talking to you about hypotheticals or innuendos and so on. I like facts. As a lawyer, as a guy who was the trial,
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm
live
here.
off of facts.
I was like, that's why I'm here. I was like, I want to know what you know. Wanted to know if you knew Epstein. Wanted to know if you knew Ghislaine. Wanted to know what you had heard Trump say about Ghislaine and Maxwell. Wanted to know if you had to deal with these lawsuits that came to Trump.
Just the one.
Yeah. And you just took it at face value that it was bullshit.
Well, I'm not the one who said it was bullshit. It was Jane Doe's lawyers that told me, I apologize. It's bullshit. I never met our client. It was all done.
And no money was exchanged, though. There was no settlement to go away or anything like that.
Nope. Not a penny. Not a penny. The attorney turned around and said, I apologize. It's actually improper what they did, but listen, it resolved itself within 48 hours.
Probably reported that person for doing that. That was
probably if I really felt like it and I wanted to be an asshole,
yeah.
I've certainly done that.
Yeah, that's a serious thing to accuse somebody of and then be like, it's bullshit.
Sure. And when I turned around and I told Trump, as I caught him coming in and out because he was constantly flying in and out, I turned around and I caught him and I said, by the way, the matter was dismissed, prejudice, without prejudice. So therefore, it can never be refiled again. But then again, who's filing it? A Jane Doe. And the reason why the address is important so that there is a legitimate address. Well, these are very significant allegations. And if that case kept going,
but then again, I thought that for a lot of these Jane Does, they don't want to put their addresses there because they don't want to be identified. That's why they're Jane Does.
Right. And so sometimes what they'll do is they could even put their lawyer's office as their address.
Or they buy a postal, but they don't want to be tracked. I mean, they're using Jane Doe to remain anonymous.
But the lawyer has to know his client, has to know the name of the client, the date of birth, a social security number, an address, a phone number. There's a specific amount of information.
They're not going to hand you that information because then you can go and intimidate that person or you can go and talk to them.
Well, understood. But when the lawyer turns around and tells me I've never met and there's no address here different than the one that we gave to him, and we have this beeper number that doesn't even work anymore. The bottom line is they apologized, they dropped the case, and we turn around and I called it and I told Trump the case has been dropped, and he goes, I told you it was bullshit.
And that's all that. That's it. Nothing more about Epstein. Wow.
No. What do you think? I was going to go and sit down with Trump? All right. Hey, let's sit and engage in a conversation on something that you told me was bullshit.
I don't know, because if I was a lawyer, I'd be like, tell me everything I need to know before I go into there so I'm not surprised. That'd be my question.
Right. Except in 48 hours again, right? The case ends up being dismissed. And he turns around and he tells me it's bullshit. I'm not going to start pressing him on something that he already told me was a lie, was bullshit. And so did Jane Doe's attorneys.
Do you think that they were really best friends, though, back in the day?
No.
Why not?
No. Because Trump never had a best friend.
That's
So
interesting.
I probably was one of the few people that he considered to be a friend, not a best friend, but a friend. And I can only tell you, look at what ended up happening to me, right? So Jeffrey, Epstein,
But you worked for Trump, so
I did. But I was in a totally different situation. I didn't come in and ask for a job. He offered me the job instead of paying me money that he owed me for doing some legal work on the Chapter 11 reorganization of Trump Entertainment Resorts. He was like, he goes, you remind me very much of my old mentor, Roy Cohn. And then he was like, he goes, why don't you come work for me? And I was like, serious? He's like, yeah, you're not happy at that sleepy old firm that you with. I was with Phillips Neisner, I think it's one of the oldest law firms in the country. And I was a partner. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not really working that hard. I'm doing well. I'm not. He goes, nah, come join me. He goes, you'll have a great time. Yada yada yada, great time. It ended up costing me everything from my finances, my family's happiness, my freedom, my law license, my business. Cost me everything. So you think that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to turn around and not tell the truth about?
Yeah, I mean, you had a good run for 15 years, but yes, in the end,
I didn't need the run. That's the whole thing. I retired at the age of 39. I lost it all. I lost money that I had put away for my kids. They didn't need to work. Lost it. Imagine, right? I worked like a dog for like 15 years before working for Trump, 4 a.m. to 11 at night. I built a massive business. I sold it. I retired at 39 after almost dying, right? And then all of a sudden, here I come in. Everything is great. It's a lot of real estate deals, a lot of interesting stuff. And then lo and behold, he has the affairs, which interestingly enough, while he has denied the allegations, I've always stood by what Stormy says. I always stood by what Karen McDougal said. So why would I not stand behind this too? If I had firsthand info.
What about the other accusers who actually accused him of rape? Like, this was obviously consensual with Stormy and Karen. What did you think of?
Like who?
I mean, E. Jean Carroll, or just the others that you had heard of that came from?
Well, I only know about E. Jean Carroll the same way that you do. That was by the press. I've never met her. I've never spoken to her. I know who Robbie Kaplan is, her lawyer, but I've never spoken to E. Jean, and I didn't know that story until it was ultimately revealed. And so I'm not gonna, I'm not.
But you worked with him for a long time, so you knew his character, I'm sure, right?
I never saw him do that.
Of course not. You wouldn't be in the room with him doing that, but you knew him as a person. You knew his character.
And I've also gone on to turn around and to say to people, so there's this entire conversation that he made about going backstage, the Miss Universe pageant or the Miss USA pageant, and that these girls that they're all walking around stark naked and so on. He's allowed to do it because he's he owns the pageant, the Miss Universe organization. Well, it's kind of funny because there were 3 members of the board to Miss Universe. Donald, Alan Weisselberg, former CFO, and me. We were the 3, all 3 felons, by the way. All right. The 3 of us were the board for the Miss Universe organization.
Wow.
And I've gone to many of those pageants. All right. From the Miss Teen USA, Miss USA, and also Miss Universe. I've been to many of them. And we would go backstage and we would go to the room in order to pick out the different women who were going to make the top 15, which was part of the rules. And it was legitimate the way that it was being done. I never saw a girl even in her underwear.
Really?
All right. So really. And that's why I say that I don't even believe Trump is telling the truth on that. He's doing it for effect. It's like, I'm Donald Trump. I can go back there. Yeah. All these gorgeous women. They're all running around nude. No, they're not. The most I ever saw is a woman in a Miss Universe bathrobe In fact, I even took one for my daughter. Right? I mean, I took one in the row. I said to what was her name? Who was the head of the Miss Universe pageant? She was the president. I turned around and said, "Hey, can I get one of those? I'm sure my daughter would love it." Right? And so I had one. And I never saw anybody walking around naked. I never saw them in their underwear or a bra. It's just not true. Why he says it, I have no idea. Does he think it makes him look cool? I don't know what he's thinking on that one. But like I said, I've been to a dozen of them. Just I never saw it.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
Right. I mean, some of them complained, but you never saw it.
I saw them getting their hair done. I saw them getting makeup done. Right, while sitting in chairs in front of mirrors, but none of them were dressed or wearing Miss Universe robes.
It probably wouldn't be the right place anyway for a board member to be hanging out where they're getting ready, right?
Well, first of all, we weren't hanging out there. We went to the office that was in the backstage. It's not like we were just sitting there engaging in conversation. It's just you walk through because that's where the office was behind the backstage. That's where Paula Shugart, who was the president, that's where her office was for the event. So we would go there, but none of that. I never saw any of it. All right. I just never saw any of it. So why he would say something like that, I have no idea. He makes many statements, but he makes many statements that is sort of odd, right?
Yeah. Why did you have an issue with Miss Pennsylvania, Sheena Monin?
Yeah, what she did. Okay, I'm glad you asked her. Sheena Monahan, I think. Monahan. She was from Pennsylvania. Well, actually, she really wasn't from Pennsylvania. She won the Miss Pennsylvania competition, became Miss USA for the competition for it. The problem that I had is she went on television because she didn't win the competition. And so she went on television and she made a claim that the whole thing is rigged, that the pageant is bullshit. She defamed the she defamed the Miss Universe organization. And, I then contacted her. I contacted her father as well. And I said, she's going to need to apologize and to retract her statements. And he was like, she returned her crown. Therefore, she's not still under any non-disclosure agreements or any agreements with the Miss Universe organization. I said, well, that's not really how it works. She defamed the organization. In essence, she was defaming the thousands and thousands and thousands of women over the years that compete, that this is not a fake competition. It's a real competition with real judges. Yeah, maybe the first 15 or 20, Donald has the say in terms of which ones that he wants to make it to, say, round 3, right? Because it's 4, 3, 2, and then 1. Which ones get to round 3? But thereafter, it's in the hands of the judges. So I said, retract it, or I'm going to sue you under the agreement, the arbitration agreement. And I did. Her lawyer screwed up and told her to ignore it, that she's no longer bound by the arbitration agreement. She was wrong. The arbitrator turned around, sided with me, and I was successful in the victory. Ultimately, what I said, because she had no money, her lawyer ended up having to go through his malpractice carrier because he advised her not to appear and not to show up. And I went ahead and we just kept going with the arbitration clause and the arbitration agreement.
Yeah. And okay. This is all like kind of, it's just interesting because of the Trump. I'm trying to paint a picture of Trump's character. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, I don't think one issue, right, paints the full character. I think we see many things. We see something that should really scare the living shit out of just about everybody, and that's the authoritarian character that is slowly eroding our democracy.
Totally.
And
But I also think
placing
it matters. I think the treatment of women is super important as well.
100%. By the way,
And I think that, even in your memoir, which I remember right now, you'd said that, Donald had ogled your teenage daughter. I remember that.
Yeah, I wrote about it.
Exactly. I mean, that must have caught you off guard a little bit, right?
It sure did. But, the problem is when you have a daughter who's really beautiful, people, are always ogling and Googling. It doesn't make it easier, especially he just didn't recognize that it was her coming off of the tennis court. And I was like, hey, boss.
He said to you, though, when did she get so hot? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it just feels like a little
It
bit
was
of
creepy. It was
It's
Jake.
creepy.
It was totally,
It's
it was
creepy.
very creepy. And I was like, seriously? And then he turned around and he was like, oh, he goes, give me a kiss. And then he said to her, which I wrote in the book, and I don't deny any of it. He said, he turns around and he says, the sad thing, in about 10 years, he goes, I'll probably be dating one of your friends, and it was just an odd comment. It was super weird and creepy. But, my daughter, who, is incredibly mature, she just turned around and she was like, so nice to see you. Right. I'm gonna,
I would
go.
be running in the other direction. I mean, that seems really, unfortunate. I'm sorry that happened to both of you.
She
but I
talked
guess,
about it on CNN with Alison Camerata.
Yeah. And I just think it's interesting, like, as we try to understand, there are allegations all the time. You had to deal with it. You were on the front lines. It's interesting to get your perspective on all of that. And I think, the more we know, the more about the character, I think it helps us understand, too, why we don't have the full story out there.
Right. And my point, Tara, just so you understand, my point in all of this, I get it. You could ask me 100 questions, even though I'm supposed to be asking you questions, but you could ask me 1,000 questions about Trump with Jane Doe, with Katie Johnson, with some of the other names that have been listed going back to like 1991, 1989. I had somebody ask me the question. I said, 1989. I was in my first year of law school. 1991, I was finishing law school. I said, you asking me questions about that. I don't like, to be honest with you,
Jeffrey Epstein stuff was just around the same he hadn't even been arrested. He had not been imprisoned when you started working for Trump. He was still very much in the Palm Beach orbit, very much the Upper East Side.
But I'm not a Palm Beach guy. That's the whole thing.
Upper East Side. He had the biggest townhouse in the Upper East Side.
Well, he doesn't have anywhere near the biggest townhouse on the East Side, but it's a beautiful, large townhouse. Trust me, it's large. It's far from the biggest. I just don't know him, right? And I had nothing to do with the guy ever. I wasn't in his orbit. I wasn't part of that, mega billion-dollar class of people. I made a very good living, but not Jeffrey Epstein interest. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So we have these conversations. I'm tired, to be honest, of everybody speculating. Release the frickin' file, and then all you and I would then be doing right now is reading through the pages of the file and engaging in conversation that truthfully is accurate, as opposed to people's hypotheticals and innuendos, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to think that you could take all the dots and combine them to make a, connect the dot picture, but we can't, and we shouldn't have to. The file exists. It was compiled by law enforcement over a dozen years. I want the file unredacted, except for the names, and I want to be able to read it.
I wonder if that complaint is in the file too, the one that you mentioned. That's what I think. I wonder if it's in there.
It's in the court files.
Yeah,
so is it in there? Maybe yes, maybe no. But we don't need that record in order to find it. You just need to go on Westlaw LexisNexis, and you'll find it.
But maybe people don't know that, and that's probably part of it too, you know?
You're going to tell me with the 10 million journalists, including the self-proclaimed ones, that they don't know that you can go onto the court doc
I'm
and you
not
can
talking
go
about
pull up the
journalists.
file?
I'm talking about the general public that doesn't
Oh, I
hang out
see.
in like court doc land like you and I do.
So what about the millions of journalists that are writing about it on a daily basis? Let them start writing about it.
Oh, it's been written about a lot. That's exactly why I was like, I got to ask Michael about this, because it is every single day it's been written about, and people are constantly writing to me, what about Katie? What about Katie? What about Katie? And I'm like,
I get that all the time.
and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any facts. You're the person I know that's closest to it. Her lawyer is never going to say anything. She decided to drop the case. Trump is never going to say anything. And I was like, who knows? Maybe Michael.
So look, I just want to say to the folks that are with us today, there's so much that's going on right now, and not to diminish the Epstein crimes. This isn't a file. This is an Epstein crime syndicate. And I believe it is imperative that we end up getting that file fully unredacted so we can put an end to that chapter and move on to the things that really affect us each individually. And that is tariffs. It's the Constitution. It's our DOJ. It's the FBI. It's the NSA, all turning around and saying every single day, as I wrote in my book, Revenge, the weaponization of the Department of Justice against Trump's critics. And people turn around and like, it's not going to happen to me. And I say, bullshit. It may happen to you. Tara, you're on the front lines, right?
Yeah.
You make comments. Everybody is on the front line. And no U.S. citizen should ever turn around and say to themselves, could I possibly be targeted by my own government because the president doesn't like me, because I said something or I wrote something that, pisses him off? That's not the way our democratic republic is supposed to exist. We're not supposed to be sending the military into Los Angeles in order to round up undocumented people. We're not supposed to turn around and federalize the District of Columbia, claiming things that even Kash Patel turned around today and said wasn't accurate. Kash Patel said that crime in D.C., crime across the country has gone down. But Trump is making it seem like it's escape from New York, that it's this crime-infested, district that he now needs to federalize. He's going to put FBI and law enforcement all together with with DOJ and FBI in order to put an end to it. They're going to get rid of the slums. That's the next thing I wanted to spend a minute and talk to you about, because obviously DC. He's talking about throwing people out of their homes in the District of Columbia because it's a blight, because he doesn't like the standard or the way that it looks. Seriously?
Yeah.
Where do we send them? To Virginia? Do we send them to Connecticut, New Jersey? How about to Louisiana? Maybe to Arizona? Where are we? Maybe to Jordan or Egypt? Where are we sending these people? And don't they have a right to live where they want?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I have to run because it's 5, but thank you for your time. Thanks for everyone on the line. It was great to meet you all. And I think you have a lot more to talk about on this topic. And I agree that it is a terrifying time for everyone who's trying to get down to the bottom of the truth. So bye, everyone.
Tara,
Thank you.
great,
Bye.
Tara, great seeing you. Next time that we're on together, we'll try to find more topics, ones...
Yeah.
Or who knows? Maybe the next time that we come on together, who knows? Maybe they'll have released part of the file or all of the file.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks.
Bye, Tara.
Bye.
As you can see, this is still very much a mystery that we don't have a lot of information about, but I think we may know a little bit more, and we may know who knows more. I want to thank all of my new followers, my old followers who have been with me through this, I think it's almost 6-month journey. I want to thank my team, my producer, Eric Abinante, my thumbnail artist, Adam Stewart, Sarah Carney doing social media, and Abby Baker, who handled research on this story. You can subscribe to the Red Letter, where I write my exclusive reporting and do my journalism. It's at tarapalmeri.com. That's TARAPALMERI.com. And that's where you can get my exclusive reporting straight to your inbox and also support me and my independent journalists by becoming a paid subscriber. You can also just rate, subscribe, send this to your friends, leave comments, tell everyone about this show. I'm still digging and working hard on this. I'll be back again soon.